excited to have you here. We are talking all about your 2026 internet marketing plan. So we're going to put some things together today on paper to really help you build out your plan for the year. So obviously we're going to set some goals for 2026 around how many leads you need in order to hit your target, and we'll talk about what those targets are. Understand how to optimize your website for the maximum success or the maximum amount of leads that you can get. We'll talk about the big picture of online marketing channels that you need to be tapping into this year. We'll have talk about some of the latest trends, and at the end of this, you'll have a plan that will help you obviously aim for that goal, hit that goal, and maximize your sales along the way. So if you want to grow your business this year, I would love it if you would mute your cell phone. Don't look at cats on Facebook, although they're tempting to do. I'm actually going to mute my phone right now as well. So there we go. So if you want to get better results this year, pay attention. I'm really going to do my best to give you some fantastic information that will help you move the needle in that direction. Also, would love to make this interactive. So if you have questions along the way, please just put those into the chat on whatever platform you're watching this on. And I'll be happy to answer those questions as we go through it. At the end of today's presentation, I'll have some freebies that I can get into your hands, some great resources that will help you start moving in that direction now that you have a goal set and in place. A little bit about me. My name is Will Hankey. I own a business called Window Treatment Marketing Pros. I've been doing digital marketing for small businesses for 28 years, and we niched down to just working with the window treatment and awning industry in 2017. So coming up on what 8 years, 9 years, I guess. In that, I work with my daughter Amber. She is our EOS integrator. If you've heard of EOS, that's what she does for us, and we've got some awards, different things going on. But I'm excited today to really help you put together your plan for this year. Um, if you've been on any of my workshops in the past, you should know about our digital dominance method. And if you don't, this is a 12-piece wheel, a flywheel, I guess you could call it, of different things that you can do for your business to start to gain momentum in the world of digital marketing. They are numbered in order for a reason. The number one thing you need to do is have your website ready and up to speed. That is the hub of everything else you do. And throughout the year, we touch on a lot of these different pieces and tell you how you can do things in these different areas. Let's say for number five, pay per click. So we have a session specifically on that during the year, and we talk about here are the things that you can do that will actually move the needle for you. All of these things are built really just to help you gain traction and hit your goal by the end of the year. Now, if you want to play along, there is a workbook that you can download. This will help you uh, get all of this stuff onto paper. And we'll talk a little bit about setting goals and putting things on paper and that kind of stuff in a little bit. But grab that QR code there, and that will help you. That'll get you the workbook and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to switch my screen here to the chat so I can make sure I'm not missing any questions that might come up. All right, there we go. All right, you should have that workbook hopefully by now. And let's see. So, number one, let's start out with a question here. What is the hardest part about marketing your business online? If you're in the chat and you want to jump in there and answer this question, I'd love to hear what you think is the hardest thing, the hardest part about marketing your business. Some of the answers I've had in the past are around I don't know where to start, or but I started with the wrong thing and it didn't work, right? Google's really good at promoting their ad platform, and they can get you in there and you can spend some money. But if you don't know what you're doing, you could go through a lot of money really quick and then wonder what happened. So there are some really hard pieces to marketing your business, especially online. and really around what in the world, should I do first? Where should I start with this? Or once we have one thing working, what should be the next thing we should do to kind of start piling on these things and increasing your overall exposure to your brand. So uh, a goal without a plan really is just a wish. You have to have some sort of plan in place to hit that goal. And I mentioned EOS earlier. So EOS is built on that platform where you have quarterly rocks of things that you're trying to attain in order to hit that 1 year goal or that 5 year goal down the road. But if you don't have some sort of plan in place, it really is just a wish. I really wish that we hit 2 million by the end of the year. But if there's no plan, it's going to be tough for you to be able to hit that. So if you feel like you're lost at sea, this is a lot of people when they're like, well, I want to hit this goal, but I have no idea what to do. So having a plan in place with those clear goals and attainable goals, not lofty, crazy goals, there is a place for them, but we want to see real time growth over the next 12 months, right? That's like having wind in your sails. It gives you a direction, it gives you some power behind it, and you just need to push towards whatever that particular goal is. Now, there was an interview, an interview of a graduating class from Harvard. And in this exit interview or post graduation interview, they asked the students there about their goals. 84% of them really had no specific goals. So they knew they just kind of wanted to do something in maybe in this focus area, but they're not really sure. 13% had goals, but hadn't really written them down, just had a good idea where they wanted to be. And then 3% had clear written down goals and some sort of a plan or path in order to get to those goals. Now, the cool thing that happened here is the 13% of the class, 13% of the class that had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who didn't have any goals at all. So, from a revenue standpoint, fantastic right off the bat. But even more staggering is the 3% that had clear written down goals were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. So that speaks to that goal setting, that goal ideal, and writing them down and having them in front of you. You need to have them in front of you and you need to set a minimum. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And you should have a 1 year goal. That's really the purpose of today's workshop, is to talk about what is the 1 year goal to get you from January to December. That at the end of December, you're going to say, okay, we hit our goal. We increased our revenue by X. We had more leads, or we had better quality leads, maybe not an increase in number, but better quality leads, which led to higher revenues. You also need to have quarterly goals. So breaking the year down into something that's a little more attainable. 90-day goals are usually a great way to go about it. And then one step further is down into 30-day goals. What is the one thing that we can do in the next 30 days in order to keep our 90-day goal on track, which will then help us with the year? You have to have these stopping points. If you don't, you're just going to kind of, work towards it as you get some time. Setting some sort of deadline really helps keep people on track. And even the procrastinators, like myself, keeps you on track and keeps you moving towards that thing that you don't want to get to the end of the year and realize, boy, I just wasted my time. Right. Right. That's definitely not it. So let's set some goals for 2026. One thing that we like to do as business owners is to set a revenue target. And that's an easy black and white kind of goal. Either we hit it or we didn't, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's a good goal to build your business that year over year you're increasing your revenue, right? So that's on the workbook on page 4 and 5. And then there's a link there too that you can jump over to the workbook if you need to, but I think you got it from the QR code there. So um, if we take that revenue target and then divide it by 12, we can see, okay, how much is that we need to be making each month, right? And then from there, we need to know what is our average transaction value. In the world of window treatments, $4,000 is probably about an average job now. In the world of awnings, it's probably closer to 6,500, 7,000 average transaction value. Obviously, you do less, you do some bigger projects. This is what it typically averages out to for our clients that we've been working with. So from that, if you know your average transaction value, you know your monthly goal or what number you need to hit in order to hit your end of the year goal, you can then work backwards and say, okay, how many leads do we need in order to hit that amount of installs or that amount of revenue for the month? Working back one more step from there, how many calls is that going to require? Or how many raised hands will I need in order to close, let's say 50% of the leads that come in? What do I need to do in order to close 50% of the leads that come in at $4,000 average in order to hit my number, right? So that's a great way to work it backwards and see, okay, now I know how many leads I need and I know how many total leads I need depending on my closing ratio. If you're really good at sales, you might be able to close 75, 80% of the calls that come in. If you're not great at sales or you're getting a bunch of poor value quality leads, you're going to need more of them, right? Just to fill that in. Now, there's another way to go about doing some of this. And I want to kind of go through some of that. Just a different way to think about it. If we think about it in installs, those are sold jobs, right? If we look at just how many installs do I need or did I do last year and how many do I need this year in order to hit my goal, you can still get to that same number. It's just a little bit easier to digest that, I think, versus looking at how many leads I need and how many I have to close and that kind of stuff. How many installs do you need? If you know your average cost per lead and cost per job, then you can start to build on this idea of, what is my conversion rate? How well am I doing on sales? Do I need to get some sales training? Do I need to increase my prices? But at the end of the day, how many installs do you need per month? And you know the average of those. Now, one thing you can do is use the worksheet in the workbook, and you can actually plug in your numbers and say, this year I want to hit uh, 22 installs per month, right? If you look at this particular screen, this year I want to hit 22 average installs per month. That means I'm going to do 200 and X number of installs per year at an average customer value of, let's say, $4,000 now. That will show you what that revenue turns into. So use that worksheet in the workbook. And this is something that you can play around with and say, well, what if we only do 20 installs this year? What is that revenue going to look like? Okay, then do I need to increase my average customer value, increase my prices a little bit to offset some of that? So a lot of those things you can start to play with in here to see different ways that you can achieve your goal. And it's not always just going out and selling more. It could be something else that you can tweak, a different lever that you can pull in order to still hit that number. Maybe it's just getting better at sales. Maybe it's that you need to increase your prices again. So, a lot of different ways that you can go about those. And then, of course, plug in your 2026 numbers on here. Once you kind of have that figured out, and this is, I think, what we want to do. Now we have to figure out how are we going to get there. Now, on the bottom is another tab where you can actually look at the numbers that you put in for 2026, and it'll start to break that down for you. Here's what you need to be spending on marketing. Here's what you need to be spending on technology, labor, all those kinds of things. And then from here, you can start to see, okay, if I do this and I spend this much, at the bottom, it'll say how many months before pure profit, and a little bit more conservatively, how much, if I spend this much on marketing, how long will it take me to recoup that initial costs? So a really cool little worksheet you can go through and start to plug in some different numbers and really get a good idea or different ways that you can achieve your goal in the coming year. So play with that. Uh, Plug in your ultimate goal. I'd love to know what your goal is for the year. and what your 2025 look like and what your 26 looks like. What is that improve percentage? Where are you trying to get to as the year goes on? That would be great. And obviously put that into the workbook. If you want to share it in the chat, that would be awesome. I'd love to help you with the accountability side of things as well. So, all right, let's talk about the fundamentals for marketing success. There's three pieces that you need to work on in order to make your plan a success from the marketing side. The message, the market, and the media. Those are the three things that you need to focus on. So let's start with the market, or the who. Who are we trying to get in front of? Now, if you ask a lot of business owners and say, "Hey, who is your ideal customer?" In the window treatment world, they're going to say, "Well, pretty much anybody, or anybody that's a homeowner, or anybody with a house, or a business owner. If you're doing commercial, that kind of stuff." But in reality, you really should dial it down to a very specific avatar or persona. This process, and we'll go through it a little bit today, this process will help you with so much of your marketing efforts and getting in front of the right people, having the right conversations, and making it easier for you to do things like raise prices and increase your overall monthly installs. So on page 9 of the workbook, we have a target customer avatar sheet. And this is something that I would definitely encourage you to take some time and spend looking through this and start to think about past customers and which customers were the best to work with and which ones had money and didn't complain and all of these different things, right? And start to kind of build this out in your head. Some of the things that you can look at, obviously, probably a homeowner, right? How old is that person? Typically, there's probably a range, but you probably have a specific age group that you really enjoy working with and that they do well. Are they married? Male or female? What is their average household income? All these different things you can start to kind of think through around this customer avatar. From there, you can talk about what are their pains and frustrations? What are they struggling with? What are they trying to solve? And a lot of times it's not just a darker room. It's that they need better sleep because their spouse works third shift or something like that, right? That is the goal. The way that they get to that goal is maybe blackout shades, or maybe it's something else. But talk about what are those pains and frustrations that they're having that they can't seem to get to the goal, or the solution that they've called to ask you for help with. Also, what are some of the things they're worried about? Like, are they worried about being overcharged? Are they worried about people coming into their home and making it dirty? Are they worried about the inconvenient times that you have to do the install? Those kinds of things. Maybe not having the right parts and having to come back a second time, right? All these are things that customers worry about and they should be talked about, right? And then, of course, goals and desires. This is more of the top level. We need blackout shades in my example, right? That is the goal. The goal could also be other things like having a really nice looking living room before the family comes over, right? Just wanting to impress the crowd or whatever. So, a lot of different ways that people could talk about those goals and desires. And it's definitely worth knowing what those are because you can integrate those things into your sales approach when you go to their house. If you can see Joe Smith through Joe Smith's eyes, then you'll know how to sell what Joe Smith buys. This is a great saying. I absolutely love the saying, and it's very, very true. If you can get inside their head and understand how they're operating and what they're thinking, what questions they're coming up with, and proactively have that already built out and in place and in your mind, you're going to have an easier time on the sales side for sure, getting them to yes. Now, the next piece of this is the message. So now we know who we're talking to, but what are we going to say to them? So this is where the message comes into play, and understanding what to say to them becomes easier because you've defined who they are, what their fears and implications are, those kinds of things. So one of the exercises I like to go through with clients is why should they choose you versus the guy down the street? You can't really say like, well, because we're better, right? You have to have a reason. We're cheaper, or we've been around longer, or we pay attention to the details. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about this, but it's very important that you start to define your company as a whole, and look less at the competitors, but also compare what do we do better than them, and putting this down on paper also helps you focus on those things to make them even better as time goes on. What benefits do you offer that this avatar will resonate with? If we go back and look at their goals and their desires and the things that they're looking for, what are those things that you offer that can help them achieve that solution? This can really help too, with defining a little bit more who your avatar is, and then defining your messaging of to that particular audience of how you work with them. And then, of course, pain points. We can't forget about poking the bear a little bit, because those are things that are on their mind, and that we need to get this thing solved, whatever it happens to be. Poke at that just a little bit and let them, create that urgency or that sense of we need to get this done. Definitely make sure that you're paying attention to that so that you can weave that into some of your approach. Here's some ideas on messaging that works. Upfront pricing, satisfaction guaranteed, we're on time every time. Some of these are great ways that you can start to differentiate yourself from a competitor. And just some ideas. But as you kind of work through the question about what makes us different than our competitors, some of this messaging will start to just kind of surface to the top pretty easily. Now, another thing you can do is go look at some of the reviews that you've received online and see what people are saying. Why did they enjoy working with you? What was the reason that they were so happy that they left you a review? Go back and check those out, because sometimes those can help you start to separate some of the differentiators, those types of things as well. Now, one thing about reviews, be careful not to look at testimonials on sites, and especially your competitors, because testimonials are typically things that you put on your website that are still trust factors for your website. But as the person who runs the website, you can put whatever the heck you want there. So take testimonials with a grain of salt, put more emphasis and more value on reviews left on third parties, typically Google. Uh, Look at those, because those are people that are not influenced or they haven't been edited by the owner to make them look in the best light. So 5-star reviews for your company on Google are going to speak volumes to you about how people engaged with you, how they enjoyed your service, and things that you did that make them really happy. The other thing that reviews do is they build social proofs. So somebody is more likely to engage with something if other people have already engaged with it. So if there are more reviews for your business than there are for a competitor, that's a competitive advantage. More people are leaving reviews, which means more people must have been happy with your service. So people will tend to actually gravitate in that direction simply because of the number of reviews that a company has. Here's an example: Shades by Design, 61 reviews with a 4.8 average. Then we've got Biscayne Decor, 5-star average, but only 5 reviews, right? That's their 5 cousins and mom. And then we've got the Shade Store, who has more reviews, 14 reviews, but their average is 3.9. That means a decent amount of people were not happy with their service from there. So the obvious answer here is Shades by Design. Maybe they're not a 5.0, but they're right up there at the top. And the number of reviews, 61 reviews, makes that average pretty darn high. So this is a case for asking for reviews, and having those reviews on your Google profile so that people can make that choice simply because you've done that piece of the work. So, in your workbook, make the case for your business. What are the things that separate you? What are the reasons that people should do business with you? Write those down, put them, do a brain dump of different ideas and cross them off as you kind of go through the workbook a little bit. But come up with a couple good ones that really resonate with your avatar, right? That it matches what they're trying to do. And then at the same time helps you uh, be very specific on the messaging that you're using in your marketing efforts on your website, in your paid ads, on direct mail, anything else that you do. It's going to be much more targeted when you go through this process. The customer will feel less like a customer because you've already poked the bear, you've already talked about their goals, and before they even engage with you, you're already speaking their language. So absolutely a great way to go through that, or a great idea to go through that workbook in that area. All right, let me see if I have any questions or chats over here. All right, I don't see anything, so I'm going to continue on. So let's talk about the last piece, which is the media. So we know who we're talking to, we know what we're going to say. Where are we going to do this? How are we actually going to implement this strategy? Now, I mentioned earlier on with our digital dominance method that your website is the hub of everything that you do. You have to have a good quality, optimized website that generates leads for you and converts people from visitors into appointments. At the end of the day, that's really the goal there. So, does your website convert people to the next step? Is there an obvious next step for them? And typically, obvious next step means there's some sort of a call to action on the page. Maybe it's a bright orange button or something that stands out from the rest of the site that draws their eye to it, that leads them to take that obvious next step. Here's an example of a company that has the request for consultation button right here near the top. Also has a text widget. So there's a lot of places for them to be able to take that next step. And it's fairly obvious what the next step is when you visit this particular website. So does your website convert them to the obvious next step? That is the first thing. Make sure that when you come to a website that there is something there that draws their attention to set that appointment. Next, is there a lead magnet in place? So not everybody that visits your website is ready to set an appointment today, right? That would be fantastic, but that's not always the case. So sometimes we need something in place to help provide some value to them, but also get their information so that when they are moving from research mode into transaction mode, you're already top of mind to them, right? So a lead magnet is a great way to do that. It is some sort of resource or value that you can give to a customer who is researching how to solve that problem. And that gets you the opportunity to stay top of mind for them. So it could be as simple as some sort of a banner that is, hey, if you take advantage of this, you're going to save money, right? That's a great lead magnet. It could also be something like download our style guide for bay windows, right? If they're on the bay window page, maybe you want them to download some sort of a style guide that will help them understand the different options when it comes to that particular type of window and things that they can do to solve that problem. So having these different lead magnets in place can really help you move forward. Now, obviously, in exchange for them downloading your style guide or a coupon or saving money or whatever it happens to be, you get their email address. So since they're probably in research mode, you get their email address and you're able to then get back in front of them on a monthly basis through a newsletter, through email outreach, those types of things. You already know that they were interested in this particular thing because they downloaded your lead magnet. So staying in front of them about that can really help solve that problem and get them to move forward. We also should talk about tracking mechanisms. So the most obvious tracking mechanism here is Google Analytics. It's free, and you can set it up on your site very easily, but you need to start collecting data about the people that are visiting your website, why they visited, what pages they looked at, how long did they stay. That type of stuff can really help as well. And then our platform, Lead Boomerang, that our clients use, has a ton of this data about where people are coming from, how many jobs you have available, how many are open, how many are closed, what is your conversion rate on these jobs. So having all of that lead source tracking in one spot can really help you start to solve the equation of, am I spending money in the right places? Is this showing a positive ROI where I know that if I put more money into it, it will continue to create more leads for us, for example. Another thing that we recommend for all of our clients is call tracking. So every different resource that you have out there doing work to generate leads for your business needs to be tracked individually. So again, you know that this particular resource or this platform is generating leads for us because we can see those phone numbers, those phone calls coming in specifically from that source. Having call tracking in place can really help you solve that for your business. Now, once you're using the right media, uh, then you know you're fishing in the right pond, and you can see that in black and white when it comes to um, number of leads generated, number of appointments set, number of installs scheduled. You can start to see that you're fishing in the right area or you're fishing in the wrong area. It didn't do any of that. Stop spending that money there and move that money to something else that we know would probably work. You're fishing in a pond that's hungry. If you know your avatar and you're saying the right things to them, they're going to bite. They're going to reply. They're going to set appointments. So having that stuff all set up and being in front of them when they need it is the perfect opportunity for you to grow your business bigger. So let's do a little exercise here. Pull up your website. I want you to pull up your homepage of your website, scroll down halfway, click on a link somewhere, scroll down halfway on that page, click a link, scroll down halfway or a third or whatever, and then stop. And then look at this page. The first thing I want you to look for is an obvious next step. When I stop right here at this point on this page, as a customer, is there an obvious next step for me? Is the set appointment button still at the top? Is it obvious? Is it a different color? Is it draw my eye towards it? Or is there nothing here that, do I have to scroll back to the top to find the phone number? Do I have to click contact us in order to get started? We don't want that. We want to avoid that. If you have a customer that's on some random page halfway down, there always has to be that obvious next step. Now, another thing you can do is do this same exercise on your phone because you're going to see a different type of screen, a different layout. Do the same thing. Pull up your website on your phone, scroll down, hit one or two buttons, see where you're at, and see if there's an obvious next step. Is there a phone number there that somebody can click on and dial right away? Is there a button they can choose to fill out a form and set the appointment or learn more about your business right away? The problem that we see is a lot of times 50 to 60% of the inbound people that come to your site leave without doing anything. And then 90% of the people that do fill out the forms, they failed to convert into appointments. And the big problem here is if a lead is not followed up within about 15 minutes, you're very likely that you're likely to lose that lead. It's going to go cold. The average customer at the same time has to be followed up sometimes 5, 7, 10 times before they actually commit to making an appointment for you. So it's not just a one and done, and you got to be quick about it. And if anybody is listening using Angie's List and some of these services that dump leads to you, if you probably can say, if I don't call this lead back very quickly, it's very unlikely to convert for me. So those systems work specifically on that premise of whoever gets to it first, first come, first serve, almost kind of deal. Today's consumers also prefer to interact via text messaging more than phone calls, more than emails. So having some sort of system in place that helps you reach them on the platform that they are most comfortable with is very important. Here's an example of time elapsed and the loss of potential conversion as time goes on. And you can see just within 30 minutes, you're only at 62% probability of closing that appointment. At the same time, the chart on the right shows how many attempts somebody needs to make before a customer converts. So it's not just once, it's multiple times. And you have to have a system in place to continually touch them and reach out to them until they say yes or no. So, how can we fix some of this stuff? Marketing automation is a great way to do this. Our lead boomerang tool has a lot of these things in place where if you miss a phone call, we text that customer back immediately and say, "Hey, this is John from ABC Blinds. How can I help you?" That stops that customer from searching. It starts a conversation. And even if you're on the ladder, that customer still feels like at least this business replied to me, and maybe I can get my solution, started, get the problem moving towards a solution. And then make sure you have some sort of an automation in place so that you do continually follow up again until they say yes or no. The follow up sequence is drastically important. If you don't follow up, when you're closing 30% of your leads, just adding in that follow up automation, and a lot of this can be automated. It doesn't have to be you sitting and dialing for dollars all the time. A lot of this can be automated, and we can change that conversion rate to 70%, same 100 leads, your revenue is going to be a ton higher just by having some of those automations in place. That means every lead that comes in is now a lot more valuable to you. And then you have a way to start to talk to those leads and get those conversations going. Hugely important. So, what are three things that you think you can change on your website? Go back and look at your website, go through that little exercise and do it on a couple different devices and see what kind of um, situation your website is in. Does it have a clear call to action? Does it have those trust factors? Does it have those things in here that will move the needle? So far we've decided on a clear goal of revenue for this year or number of installs that you want to achieve. We talked about the market, the message, and the media. We talked about optimizing your site for conversion, especially around those calls to action. And then I mentioned also setting up tracking. All of this work is for naught if you're not setting up the tracking piece of it to know if it's working or not, right? So, very important that you have that in place as well. So, if you have some time, put this onto your worksheet, put this into the chat if you'd like. What are some things that you learned? What are some things that you noticed maybe about your current marketing situation that you think you could fix? Some things, different levers that you can pull to really start to help you achieve your goal for 2026. I'd love for you to share those with us. You can shoot an email to me, you can put them in the chat here. Always excited to hear what different things your takeaways are from our workshops and how we can help you. Now, as I mentioned, we have a 12, I'm not going to call it a step, but a 12 pieces of the pie, the different things that you can do called our digital dominance method. And each of these are different levers you can pull to increase the overall marketing exposure for your business. Some of them are easier, some of them are more difficult, but these are the 12 overarching umbrellas that we've identified for your business. Now, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of things that you could potentially be doing for your business. Which one should you really be spending time on? If you're on a limited budget and you're not sure where to start, I would recommend that you start with content. Start adding pages to your site that have the right keywords in place that help your avatar solve some sort of problem. And obviously, it should be geared around something that you sell that you have a decent margin on. This is different than going into your website and just changing some stuff. This is consistently adding additional content to your site so that every time the search engines come to your website, it's bigger, it has more content, it helps people solve more problems. this is a great way to go. The other thing I would recommend is make sure that you've claimed and optimized your Google business profile. Google.com/business is where you go. Make sure that you claim it. Make sure that you verify it. It's a little bit difficult to verify sometimes, but if you have a real business and you have a real business location or your home, you should be able to get approved to the point where you can start to show uh, your your business listing in what we call the three pack, the three pins with the map area. That for us, 60 to 70% of our clients get their leads from, or sorry, our clients get 60 to 70% of their leads specifically from the Google business profile. It is drastically important to your business. It's critical for your growth. So claim that listing, start asking for reviews, make sure that your reputation score is improving. There's a lot of tools out there that can do this. We have a tool that we can help you with to do this as well. And start getting those reviews. These reviews will start to expand to other networks. You can build something called citations, or basically add your business to a bunch of different business directories. Google loves it when they always find your business and it always has the same name, address, phone number. I go into more details on this later on in the year in our how to optimize your business for local SEO. So watch for that workshop, or you can go to our website, wtmarketingpros.com/workshop, and you can find the one that I did last year on this subject. But definitely work on that. Now, one thing that a lot of people ask me is, what about social media? Social media is a indicator of a business that is not stale, right? So posting on Google business profile, obviously very good. Posting on Facebook, posting on some of these networks that show that you are active cannot hurt you. It's not necessarily a lead generation play, but it is a brand exposure play, and it's going to get you in front of more eyeballs. So we don't think you should ignore social media, but it is not a lead generating source. So it shouldn't be an early on goal or target for you in your business. Now, another thing that you can do is paid ads. Okay, so maybe I could run ads on Google and get some exposure for my business. And absolutely, yes, paid ads is the gateway to more leads in a short amount of time. Getting Google ads up and running can help you start to generate revenue that can then pay for you creating additional content, adding an SEO, building your website bigger and bigger so that you have a massive machine working on your behalf to generate leads. A lot of clients in the past for us would start with pay-per-click and SEO at the same time. SEO takes a long time to get moving. Once it starts to really rev up, we have a split. 50% of our clients will pull back on that pay-per-click budget and rely on the organic rankings. We recommend you not do that anymore. That used to be okay, but less and less people are looking at the organic rankings. More people are making their decision from that three pack, the pins with the map. They're not even scrolling down to the organic results. So having that in place, huge. Obviously, above that is the paid ad piece of that. So having those paid ads running and getting the first opportunity to get in front of those eyeballs can really help you. But paid ads is really um, not a question anymore of should you. It is an absolute necessity. So on page 14 of the workbook, what are your top three things that you think you need to do this year? If you go back and look at your goal, kind of go through what we've talked about, what are those top three things that you can do to start to move the needle in order to hit your goal by the end of this year? Write those in that workbook on page 14. All right, so now we've got clear goals. We know uh, what goal we want to hit for this year. We also know a little bit more about who we're going to talk to, what we're going to say to them, and how we're going to say it. Those are hugely important pieces of really building out something that is going to help you gain momentum down the road. Obviously, we want to make sure we have the tracking in place. And now you have the knowledge to really go execute on this. Now, obviously, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. I'll check the chat and see if there's any questions here. I don't see any questions right now. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to explain those. Obviously, my company is here to help. If you are in a situation where you really need to get in front of more eyeballs quickly and you need somebody that knows what they're doing to get you there, I'd love to have a conversation with you around what you're doing now, what your plan is for the year, and then how you're going to execute that. We see if there's an obvious, way that we can help you, if we're a good fit or not. So wtmarketingpros.com/strategy is where you would go for that. All right, let's talk about a couple of freebies here. Got a couple of things I want to get into your hands. First of all, my book, 10 Quick Wins. So make sure that you got this book. This is 10 chapters of things that you can do to help move the needle in your overall success. It's a fantastic book. Obviously, not terribly thick. You should be able to get through that fairly quickly, but it does have best practices in there, real things that you can apply to your business and start to move the needle. Obviously, they compound on each other as well, which is really nice. Shoot the QR code or go to wtmarketingpros.com/book, plug in your address, and I'll get one of these in the mail to you right away. Also, everything to do with online marketing involves keywords. So knowing what keywords I need to put into my website, what keywords I want to rank for, and being part of those conversations is important as well. I put together a list of the top keywords specifically for window treatment and awning industries. Shoot that QR code, go grab that list. That'll give you a really good head start on tracking what you're doing now. And obviously, as you implement some of these things, watching that increase along the way. And then lastly, if you want to chat with me, I mentioned this before, let's jump on a strategy session. I'd love to learn more about what you're doing now, what your goal is for the year, what your revenue goal was last year, if you hit that goal or not, and where you're hoping to go over the next 12 months. Would love to learn more about that and see if there's a way that we can plug into that and really help you grow your business. There's a QR code there, or wtmarketingpros.com/strategy will get you to that same place. Our next workshop next month is all about your online reputation. So we talked a little bit about that today with getting reviews and getting people to actually leave those reviews. We're going to dig into that more in next month's workshop. Would love to have you on there. You will get information about that. Obviously, we'll be broadcasting on the same platform again next month. So watch for that presentation coming up, and we'd love to have you on there as well. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. If you want to reach out, obviously we're on a lot of the social networks. We've got an email address, phone number, all that good stuff. My name's Will. Would love to have a conversation with you around what you're trying to do and where you're going for the next year. Thanks so much for jumping on. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care.